We are live on Facebook, so I think we're good to go ahead and get started. I know it looks like Blair is just joining us, so welcome Blair, and welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the latest in our Let's Chat webinar series. Today we are going to explore our virtual floating classroom, and I'll let Henry talk about that in just a second. But before, I did want to let y'all know again that this is live on Facebook, so if you're watching here on Zoom, if your video is on, that means your video is going to be on our Facebook live stream as well. And if you're watching on Facebook, you don't really have to worry about that, but I want to let all of the viewers know, no matter which way you're watching, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts. So please share your questions in the comments or the chat, and let us know how you're doing with our virtual floating classroom quiz / trivia that's going to start in just a few minutes. And again, like I said, this webinar is also being recorded, and we will be sharing a link to that recording this afternoon. So if you have to hop off for any reason, that's totally fine. This will be available to you whenever you feel like coming back to it. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Henry, our Middle Chattahoochee director. Hey, Henry.
All right. Thank you, Julia. Yeah. I'm glad we get to do this, talk about the virtual floating classroom and kind of walk through how to use it, whether you're a teacher or a parent or someone with a community group or after school group. Really, anybody who wants to kind of share this experience, I'm going to walk through how to do that. So just kind of some background to start with. The virtual floating classroom is based on Chattahoochee Riverkeeper's floating classroom program. And we've got two boats. One is on Lake Lanier. That is the original boat floating classroom. It's been around for 19, 20 years. And that's run in partnership with Alatchie Nature Science Center. And it's just, a really good thing to get school groups out on a 40-foot boat in a safe and just kind of, an outdoor experience. It's a classroom kind of setting, but you're outside in the sun, on the water. And, I think it's important to note that this, is an environmental education program that we're teaching to standards set by the state of Georgia. And in the case for our program on West Point Lake, which serves kind of the West Georgia, East Alabama region, we're also teaching to Alabama performance standards. So this is right about the virtual floating classroom. And it's something that we've created in the last, 6-7 months, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic that we're experiencing and having to fight our way through. But, kind of silver lining type opportunities. About a year ago when both floating classroom programs really kind of went on pause because, field trip experiences were not really something schools could do. We realized it was a great opportunity to develop an online kind of program curriculum. It's something we've been thinking about for years because, we've had the floating classrooms around almost 20 years now. On West Point Lake, we've had that program for about 5 or 6. And we've served nearly 80,000, or actually maybe more than 80,000 students and teachers over the years. But there have been countless more who, for whatever reason, weren't able to come out on the boat to book a field trip. Maybe it was cost, even though we're able to provide scholarships to Title I schools and others in need, maybe they couldn't get transportation. So kind of my point is, we've been wanting to provide an alternative or something that complements our floating classroom programs. And so that's really what we kind of have in mind with this virtual program. It's, we've filmed some of the activities on the boats with our instructors, and then we're using Kahoot a game-based kind of e-learning tool that seems to be pretty popular, to kind of make it a little bit more interactive, as fun as possible, as you know, learning on our computers. So that's kind of, I hope that kind of fills in a little bit of the backstory. We've been working now, right, for the last 6 months to develop this floating classroom online. And just really within the last couple of weeks, we've kind of rolled out the 4 initial lessons that cover kind of a range of topics and activities. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen. I'm going to kind of walk through how to get to the virtual floating classroom, and then how to use it. And then I'm hoping folks who are with us right now, you're going to have a chance to play, to get in the game, and we're going to walk through one of the lessons, and I hope you'll join and follow along and answer the questions. So I'll provide instructions how to do that here. But I think if that covers it, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So starting with Chattahoochee Riverkeepers website, chattahoochee.org. This is where you'd go to. I hope if you haven't already been on here, just to kind of look and browse through some of the good things we're up to these days. But I'm going to kind of go directly to our program page, and you'll see here in the little drop-down menu, there's an option for the virtual floating classroom right under the floating classroom tab. And that brings you here to the web page for the program. You got a few things up at the top here just to kind of give you some background, a few tabs that give a little explanation. There's a link here for our lesson plan, and that includes, if you go to that lesson plan, it'll show you the specific standards that each lesson meets, whether those are Georgia Standards of Excellence or the Alabama Learning Exchange. And we also just explain a little bit about the program. We're using Kahoot. Pretty cool that more than 70 million monthly active users, including around 50% of all K-12 students in the US. So we chose Kahoot because it seems like a lot of students and teachers are already familiar with the program and how to use it. And then an important thing to note, if after this you want to schedule a virtual floating classroom session, Riverkeeper, myself, some of our other instructors are available to actually guide groups through the lessons. And we would do it basically exactly like how I am talking to you right now. We would schedule a Zoom call, and then I would lead the group through the lessons and kind of provide some more background and insight and answer questions that might come up. So, you can email me at hjacobs@chattahoochee.org for more information about that and how to schedule. And then, important to note just that the folks who are supporting the virtual floating classroom right now, this development, and I think I need to add to that list Southwire, who is supporting it as of just a week or two ago. So add Southwire to the Stockwell Family Foundation, Georgia Pacific, Alice Richards Fund, Charter Foundation, and the West Point Fund. So thank you to those donors. So we have, like I said, 4 lessons up right now. We have plans to develop more this year, but we've got first kind of welcome, introductory lesson. This is the one I'm going to lead, kind of walk y'all through, but just to kind of scroll down and show you, we also have a lesson on water monitoring, and this will show folks how to do pH and dissolved oxygen monitoring, and it'll have questions that kind of give context. We also have a lesson available that makes use of an enviroscape, which is a pretty cool tool. It's kind of a model of a community, and showing really how water flows throughout, and So good stuff there. And then right now our lesson 4 is just kind of a general overview of Chattahoochee River Keeper. And all of these lessons are between, 10 to 20 minutes in length. So, within a 45-minute to an hour classroom time, you could do 2, maybe 3 of these activities. And then the last thing I'll point out before we get into it, for each lesson, you have 2 tabs. You can see one is for students, one is for teachers. And I'll come back to that at the end, but just, basically the for students option is a good way to kind of give out an individual assignment, maybe homework. You can send that link to students and they can do it on their own time. But what we are going to do is the for teachers option, which is a way to actually, guide the lesson yourself as the instructor or the teacher, kind of whoever is kind of in charge. I'm doing this so that you can see how to set it up and lead one of these yourselves. So I clicked on that link. It brings you to the Kahoot website and to the page for lesson 1. You can just kind of scroll through. It shows you all the questions in this lesson. And what I'm going to do now is press play. And it's going to give you these 2 options, either to assign, which would be kind of like sending out a homework assignment, or to present, which is what we're going to do right now. So just to kind of give some more explanation, if you're someone who, a week from now, you want to do this with your own group of kids or whoever, you would find yourself on this page and you have a few things to choose from. I'm just going to kind of quickly go through. You have a chance, if you want to know exactly who is playing, you can turn this option on and folks will have to enter in their email. We've got our friendly nickname generator on, so you'll find out in a minute kind of how to avoid any awkward names. Instead, these generate some pretty fun ones. I think that covers it. I've kind of got the settings like I want it. This is something, if you get on here yourself, you can kind of walk through, give some explanations, but we are going to do the player versus player option. The other would be, if you're in a classroom itself and you have kids and you have maybe a limited amount of devices, whether that's, a cell phone or a laptop. And so you would have maybe 4 students use one device and they would be a team. Whereas we're going to go with the option where everybody is going to be using their own device. So now's the time y'all can join in. I highly encourage y'all to. The way to do this is to either open up a separate web browser or on your phone, pull up www.kahoot.it on your phone or on another web browser. And then it's going to give you the option to put in this game PIN number. So you're going to find out, you'll get to put in you get 3 options for a fun nickname. I'm just gonna, we'll wait probably a minute or 2. And even once the game has started, you will have the option to join in kind of in the middle. I would encourage, if anybody's listening through Facebook Live now, pull up a separate web browser and go to kahoot.it, or if you already have the app maybe on your phone, you can do that. And then you see the game PIN number. So good. And a nice feature, we could have up to 2,000 people join this game right now with the the account that we have through Kahoot. So if you had a big old group of folks, 2,000 is the limit for us, which that would be pretty fun. Maybe in the future we can get everybody in the Watershed or in the school system to join in on one game. So I'm gonna give it one more minute. I'm gonna check to see, I guess if there's questions coming up. I'll let Julia handle that. And then also too, right, you know, this we'll probably run through this lesson. It'll take about 10-15 minutes, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. So we've got 6 folks who are willing to play along. So I'm gonna start. So just kind of start off nice and easy, kind of explain what we're doing. Right, this is the introductory lesson, really just kind of talking about, you know, why it's important to protect the water resources that we have, you know, not just in our community, but here on Earth. So definitely this is kind of the big picture, just trying to kind of get folks thinking about, you know, why a group like Chattahoochee Riverkeeper is around, because our rivers and our waterways need protecting because we want clean water. So here up first is first question, and you can see this is a pre-test question, so it won't be worth any points. And if you're looking at your phone or at your web browser, you're going to see that you're going to have 4 colored blocks, and each block corresponds with one of the answer options. And so you can see we've got 5 answers in so far. You can also see right on. All right, the 6 folks we're all on it. We all know about 75% of the Earth's surface is covered by water. Good stuff. Good stuff. So that was a pre-test question, so no points were awarded for that one, but you can kind of see this is in the spirit of kind of a game, a little competitive. Another pre-test question. Where can you find water on Earth? Select all that applies, so there's more than one correct answer. And I'll just point out over here on this side of the screen shows you that there is a pretty, you know, the amount of time available for folks to ring in is about 2 minutes, which that just allows for enough time for everybody, hopefully, you know, whatever type of group you have. Usually once everybody has answered, it'll automatically go into the next screen. Of course, for the sake of time, sometimes there's a, you know, I'll wait a little bit longer. Right on. So most everybody got it. So again, pre-test questions, so no points were awarded for that one. Add in a few slides like this. So, you know, just kind of a fun little factoid that, you know, the image kind of shows at different ages, the human body, the percentage of water that makes up the human body kind of varies by age, but right, if you're 5 to 14 years old, about 75% of your body is made up of water, whereas that kind of decreases over time. And I'll point out, if folks are joining us right now or just kind of tuning in on Facebook, and you want to join in this Kahoot game, all you have to do, it's down here at the bottom of the screen, just go to kahoot.it, and then you can put in the game pin number. So definitely join in if you're game. So this is part of the lesson, and I'm gonna kind of go quiet. This is about a 4-minute video.
So let's talk about all the water in the world. You're familiar with our planet Earth. When you look at it, you see a lot of green, a lot of blue, a little yellow. And all that blue represents our water. I hope you know how much of our Earth is covered in water. Do you? Well, if your guess is somewhere around 75%, you're right. Let's talk about that water. It falls into two categories. And for a moment, I want you to use your imagination. This gallon of water, 256 tablespoons, represents all the water in the world. You got to use your imagination, but look how powerful I am. Woohoo! Now, if I have all the water in the world, I want you to think about how much of that you have access to and how much of it is part of your water source. So let's do a little demonstration. First of all, we're going to take this 1 gallon of water and pull out 7 tablespoons. Now, I'm going to measure these 7 tablespoons into 1 cup of water. Siete. All right, now I've got 7 tablespoons pulled out and my gallon less those 7. Which of these is salt water and which of these is fresh water? Make your guess. If you said this was fresh, you're correct. That means 97% of our Earth's water is salt water. Can you drink it? No. If you've ever been to the ocean and you've gotten water in your mouth, you know how it tastes. We can't drink salt water. And as much as I love the ocean, I got to put this water over here. We can't drink it. Now let's get to this 3% that's fresh. Can you drink all of it? Let's pull out 2 tablespoons as a demonstration and put here to the side. This water, now 2% of the Earth's water, is in an interesting place, challenging for us to get to, not something we can drink. Do you know where this percent of the water is? I'll give you a hint. Let it go, let it go. It's frozen. It's in our ice caps, it's in our glaciers. We can't get to it either. Off to the side. Now we're talking about really less than 1% of the Earth's water. And you're thinking, that's the water we have to drink. Not quite. I'm going to go to the old dipper here and pull out 2 drops of water. Now watch carefully. 1, 2. I'm going to give the rest back to this cup. This percentage of the Earth's water is someplace that you might not have thought about. Did you think underground? Right, this is groundwater, very far beneath the Earth's surface, and again, not something we can easily access. So look what's over here, and look what we're left with. Can you see those 2 drops? That's the water that you and I have in our atmosphere, in the clouds, in our living things, in our rivers, in our lakes, in our streams. This is the water that we have. Out of all the water in the world, we need to keep it clean. Can you help me?
All right, so got to give a lot of credit to Carol Kane, one of our floating classroom instructors, for doing that. So on to the next question. You know, these ones count now. No longer pre-test. So again, if folks are joining us on Facebook Live, in the bottom corner of the screen here, you can see if you type into your web browser in a separate page, kahoot.it, and then you can put in the game pin number. So it's just here in the bottom of the corner. Everybody's on it. 97% water on Earth is found in our oceans. So you'll see here in our scoreboard, you get more credit. You get a few more points depending on the timing of when you answer. So if you answer first, then you get a few more points. So definitely kind of that ups the ante a little. So we've got a few more questions left here time-wise. So you can see the question here, and this is another, there are multiple answers so select all that apply for this one. Give it a little bit more time, but right, what we're really trying for one, where these questions are following up on the pretest questions that we asked earlier. So hopefully we're seeing as good or better scores for this one. And we're really trying to, by selecting all that apply, by making more than one answer, correct, really just trying to get students to think through a bit of critical thinking. So right on, most everybody's on that one too. A little scoreboard update, Amazon dog. And again, if you're joining us just now, that these names there's kind of a friendly nickname generator. So they have some pretty good ones in there. On to the next question, 8 out of 11. So we've got a few more. I will let the question come up here, and so thank y'all to the folks who are in the game and sending in the answers. You can just kind of imagine, if you will, if you're a teacher, you've got a class of 30 kids, and if you're still if school is still remote, and you're at the point in your curriculum where you're talking about water resources, and this would be a great use of 45 minutes to an hour of you and your students' time. So everybody's hanging in there. This is our Amazon dog is definitely on it. So two more questions, and got a true or false one here. So again, if folks are tuning in on Facebook Live, I mean, what we're talking about here is the virtual floating classroom program that we created really to complement our floating classroom programs on Lake Lanier and West Point Lake, knowing that a lot of students right now are unable to participate in field trips. So, creating an online game-based program here to really just kind of give folks a chance to think through some of these questions and just kind of hopefully why it's important to protect our Chattahoochee River, streams around here, music for this game. The option to control the volume of the game. I'm going to take advantage of that. I'll give a few more seconds for this one. You can see here kind of how much time is allotted for each question. So ultimately, when it reaches 0, then you're done. You might have to. I think skipping will. So for folks got that one, kind of a trick question. The question was 7.8 million, rather. We got 7.8 billion people on this earth here. We're all depending on the fresh water that we have in our rivers, lakes, and streams. So final question here. I appreciate everybody kind of hanging along, going along with this. And this is more a poll than kind of a critical question. And you can read it for yourself, but definitely kind of trying to get a sense of how folks feel about protecting waterways like the Chattahoochee River, or, you know, if you live in the Flint River watershed, or the Tallapoosa, Coosa, all these different rivers, watersheds we have throughout Georgia, throughout the Southeast and the country and the world. And this, I think, you know, we just recently created this virtual program, and did some fine tuning, got some inputs from some friends, teachers, administrators, and school systems here that we've worked with the floating classrooms. And so while we've made, you know, we've kind of fine tuned these, there's definitely still room for improvement, and, you know, maybe add a few more questions, maybe some more polls is one response we've gotten. So we've really, at this point, we're just kind of, we've rolled it out. We want to get it in the hands of teachers and students. And, but we're definitely, we're working on more material, but also fine tuning these lessons that already exist. So I'm gonna finish this off here. Right on. Everybody thinks we need to do more to protect our waterways. There's always more that we can be doing. So this is kind of a little fun way to finish the lesson. You get the podium, find out who ultimately got the highest score. Diplomat Hawk. Right on. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. So yeah, kind of a fun little way to finish. You know, last couple things I want to talk about, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. I know we've got probably 10 or so minutes left just in this webinar. For one, thank y'all to everybody who played. And now I just want to show y'all a few options you have. So if you are a teacher or a group leader and you just went through this lesson with your group of kids, or, you know, friends, family, whoever, you've got a few options. You could run it back. But I think more importantly, maybe you can press this option to get feedback. So if you look on your phone or on the other screen you have, you can put in what your rating is, you know, thumbs up, or maybe you have some critical feedback to share, which is welcomed, because we want to make this as good as we can. So, you know, that's one thing. I can show the feedback on the screen. So good to see, you know, some folks are sharing their feedback. I'm also going to click now on this link to view a report. So it has this, you know, have you stopped sharing your screen? This is really just kind of a way to protect the privacy of folks. Just for this, I'm going to show you, just so you know how to access this report, if you are a teacher. And so, you know, you can see who played. And again, these are generated nicknames, so folks' privacy is protected in that regard right now. But you can see how everybody did. You can look at questions, see which ones were kind of more challenging for folks. So it's nice to have this report, and, you know, something that can come in handy if you're a teacher. So I'm going to go back. One more thing I want to cover before I turn it over for questions. I've gone back to the Virtual Floating Classroom webpage itself, and I just want to show you. So that whole thing we went through, that was the the 4 teachers options. So really to kind of present it to a group, whether it's in a classroom or kids are learning virtually, everybody tunes into a Zoom call. But if you want to send out this lesson as a homework assignment, what you can do is click on this tab, the For Students tab, and it's going to take you to the game, kind of a little private session, and you'll have a chance to, they'll come up with another generated nickname, and then it's going to take you through that lesson just kind of on the individual basis, and the student, whoever's playing, will get a chance to kind of control the pace. So that if you want to, I'm going to come back here to the homepage of the Virtual Floating Classroom. So if you're a teacher, someone watching, listening, you got 2 options. You can lead one of these lessons yourself, or you can send out a link to this webpage and have your students do lesson 1, lesson 2, all the way through lesson 4. So I've been talking. I'm gonna stop my screen sharing. I'm gonna return back here, and I hope that's been informative somewhat. I hope y'all are able to follow along. Thank you to the folks who joined in the Kahoot game, and I welcome any questions or thoughts y'all have.
Thank you, Henry. That was great. Definitely some fierce competition in that little quiz.
Yeah, man.
We do have one question coming through in the Zoom chat. This comes from Merity. She says, March is science fair time for many schools where students do independent research projects. Are any of your lessons designed around research of water quality, river erosion, or any other relevant issue related to the Chattahoochee River? If not, involving students in this type of work for school credit will help recruit future river keepers, for sure.
Right on. Yeah, great question. And yep, for one, this is live now, and I would suggest lesson 2 is all about water quality monitoring, and it shows, demonstrates how to conduct pH water monitoring as well as dissolved oxygen water monitoring. So it kind of walks through how to do it, and then it has some questions following up to kind of reinforce what folks have learned. So lesson 3 talks about just kind of general watershed principles, and definitely focuses on the effects of, sediment, soil erosion, as well as other, pollutants that can affect our waterways. And then it talks about how to prevent sediment erosion, and other just kind of solutions, things we can do to be better water stewards. So yeah, I think if I was a 6th grade science student and I've got science fair coming up in March, I would go on the Virtual Floating Classroom webpage and do lesson 2, lesson 3, maybe the other 2 lessons as well, just to kind of get familiar. And then if I'm interested, then you could go either borrow or purchase, a water monitoring kit yourself. And you could also reach out to me or to anyone at Chattahoochee Riverkeeper if you want to maybe think about an internship with Riverkeeper now or in the future. So again, yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
Thanks, Henry. Yeah, Merity, I think you're typing something else too. Hadn't had the chance to look at it, but thought it might be materials that are required or indicated. Does the sediment lesson include research required materials?
So the way we have it set up, you can just go on, do the lesson, and hopefully learn stuff. Maybe questions are raised that you want to follow up on, and reach out to us. My email is on the webpage. I would suggest that when you're on the webpage, if you go to the How It Works tab, you'll see it at the top of the webpage. There's a link in there for the lesson plan. So for each of these lessons, there's a description. It talks about which standards are being met through, the Georgia Standards of Excellence or the Alabama Learning Exchange. So there's not necessarily any materials you need in your hands to do these lessons, But hopefully, students will do them, and then they're going to, want to go out, do some water monitoring themselves, or find other ways, maybe go volunteer for a trash cleanup. And then hopefully too, in time, once field trips become more common again, schools are going to, schedule outings to come out on the Lake Lanier, the West Point Lake floating classroom that we are running now, but kind of on a limited, small scale basis.
Well, Henry, that's a good segue into my question, and that is, what does the future of the virtual floating classroom and the floating classroom look like, and how will the two work with each other moving forward?
Yeah, so we definitely designed the virtual floating classroom to complement our floating classrooms on Lake Lanier and West Point Lake. And in time, right, normally we have field trips running Monday through Thursday, all throughout the spring and the fall, during the school year. During the summer, we're working with summer camps and many different groups. And we've been really fortunate the last really 10, 15, 20 years with both programs now to have a lot of great response, a lot of groups coming out, a lot of teachers knowing that their kids get stuff out of these on the water field trips. So, in time, once we're back full booked, which we're excited when that time does come, when it's safe, and when schools are comfortable sending kids out on field trips, we will be ready. We're maintaining both programs, all the materials, the boats, the insurance, the staff. And so we're ready. And actually right now we do have a COVID-19 preparedness action plan in place. And so, for instance, we have a few outings scheduled this spring with school groups, and they're coming out smaller group sizes. We're making sure to be socially distant. Masks are required. And so, right, the virtual floating classroom right now is a way for students and teachers to experience the program, because, if they're not able to actually take a field trip. So it's out there right now for those folks. In time, it'll be a great kind of pre-trip learning tool. So we'll send a link to the virtual floating classroom to groups the week before they come out on the boat itself, and they can go through the lessons and kind of become, familiar with the vocabulary words that we're using, the water test. So when they actually get out on the boat itself, they're already kind of going to know what's going on, and I think they'll get that much more out of it. So, yep, virtual floating classroom is really something to complement both of our boats and our programs, and we're excited for the future, and we really appreciate all the support from all the program sponsors, as well as every Chattahoochee Riverkeeper member, because your annual contributions are helping fund the virtual floating classroom, the floating classrooms, and then everything else that Riverkeeper does to protect the river and try to get folks engaged and involved. So that was a long-winded answer, but hopefully it helped.
It did help, yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing how both of them grow. So I think that wraps it up for me. I'm not seeing any other questions from everyone, so I think we'll go ahead and close it out. But thank you so much, Henry, for talking about the virtual floating classroom and the floating classroom program as a whole. We really appreciate it. As a reminder, if you're watching this on Zoom, we'll be emailing this webinar. We've recorded it. We'll email that out to you later this afternoon. And if you're watching on Facebook, this webinar will be saved under our videos tab. So thank you so much, Henry. We appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
All right. Y'all have a good one.